Some say it is a gift from the gods, a gift from God. Some say it is worth more than gold. That it can save life, purifies man from his weaknesses, makes him fully aware of himself. It can turn ordinary men into honorable men. It is philosophy. The love for knowledge. Ignorance. He who knows not, and knows not, he knows not, is a fool. Shun him. He who knows, but knows not, he knows, is asleep. Wake him. He who knows, and knows, he knows, is wise. Listen. And he who knows not, and knows he knows not, is simple. Teach him. What is ignorance? Ignorance is simply being unaware of something, or the lack of information, or the lack of education. I like the particular definition of ignorance as being the lack of education, because Will Durant had defined education as a progressive discovery of our own ignorance. The more that we get to discover that we do not know, the more we become educated. But there is a certain mindset that is required before one can begin to learn. We look at the teachings of the Christ when he said, do not give what is holy to the dogs because they will they will take it to the rubbish pit. Or do not cast your pearls in front of pigs because they will trample them. Also, Ahmad among the Muslims said, do not waste your knowledge on those that are not fit for it. To mean that there are certain types of people who are not capable of learning. For one to even begin to learn, one must be aware of their own ignorance. They must know that they do not know. This calls to mind the explanation or the quote, perhaps one of the most well-known quotes among moral philosophers, that came from a man known as Socrates. He said, I am the wisest man in the whole of Greece because I know that I do not know. The realization that one is ignorant, as I have stated, is the beginning of the learning process. The question is, why is it difficult for people to learn or to even accept the fact that they do not know? The reason why people do not often quickly acknowledge their ignorance is because everything that lives knows. The first thing after life is knowledge. I'll give specific examples. For example, when a baby is born and it is put on its mother's breast or its mother's chest, it knows automatically to begin to suckle. The same holds true when you look at a snail. A snail may not have the biggest brain on earth, but it knows to slither on the ground. Therefore, the first thing after life is knowledge. And to acknowledge the fact that you do not know is a very strange, sometimes difficult experience. Therefore, many people often choose to consider themselves knowledgeable when they do not know. Because as I've said, the first thing after life is knowledge. But now, let's look at the types of ignorance that exist. There is simple ignorance and there is compound ignorance. Simple ignorance simply implies a situation where a person does not know something and the person knows that they do not know. These types of people will even seek out information. They'll seek out ways to learn something. They'll even be willing to observe how that thing is done. For this to occur, the person must first acknowledge the fact that they do not know. And now there is a second type of ignorance, known as compound ignorance, as I've stated, or complex ignorance, others say. This type of ignorance stems from miseducation. A person has been educated wrongly. The person begins to assume that they know something when actually they have been miseducated. This type of person is very difficult to get to enlighten because the person already has information which is not correct. A certain man literally said, the problem with people on earth is not that they do not know, but that they know so many things that are not so. So to get to eradicate this second type of ignorance, where a person does not know but they assume that they know and they are basically knowledgeable, is quite a difficult task. Most often, whether it's into intellectuals or basic mystics or philosophers, there's a certain level of vanity. They are not often willing to acknowledge that they are ignorant. They are not humble enough to acknowledge their ignorance. So let us take a listen at the story that occurred among these four people. There was the mathematician, the philosopher, the historian, and the astronomer, in terms of how they handled their problem.